Good morning. I'm Scott Damon, and we're on the morning track at Saugus with Jocelyn Mozak, and she is going to be sharing with, it is clone yourself through automation, and I sure love automating because it sure makes my life easier. She has over a decade of experience in building, running, and wrangling a WordPress website design agency, all while having the two boys at home. They're bigger now, but yeah, she's got a lot to juggle, and definitely want to make the best use of your time. So Jocelyn, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I couldn't be more excited to be here. I must say, I am loving these virtual WordCamps. It's so amazing to have this little bit of normalcy in this so unusual time where we can just sort of hang out and be geeks and do all things WordCamp. So today, my talk is Clone Yourself Through Automation. And you'll see at the bottom of my slide, is a link to my website. So you can get the slides right now because I'm going to be going through a lot of things, both giving you kind of the high level ideas, but also digging deep into a lot of the tools I'm using. And so when I talk about cloning ourselves, I'm not actually talking about replicating ourselves, but finding ways so that someone or something else can do those repetitive tasks. So we, as the CEOs of our business, can focus on the things that we should be spending our time on. And so I'm going to share with you today is how I've leveraged automation in my business. And what I'm going to do is take you through the life cycle of a web design project. And we're going to kind of drop in and out and show where automation shows up to streamline the business. So let's start at the very beginning. We get a lead from a prospect. So how much does a website cost? We all love this question, right? Well, it kind of depends now, doesn't it? And so our goal at this point is to go from that email to a sales call, providing we want to have a sales call with this prospect with minimal effort. So how are we going to do that? Well, when that email comes in, we're going to reply with our own email. It's going to say something along the lines of, well, thank you for reaching out. To provide an accurate estimate, I'm going to need just a little more information. Here is a link to my project request form. Once complete, you'll be taken to my scheduling page where you can select a time from my calendar that works with your schedule. I look forward to learning more about your project. Sincerely, Jocelyn Mozak. So you can already start to hear the foundation of some automation. I'm not replying with a collection of questions for them. No, I'm going to guide them through this system of filling out a form and scheduling a time, and then we can talk. In fact, the automation starts all the way at the very beginning with this email because I'm going to reply to this email with an automation, with a canned email. And if you're using Gmail, they have already built into it the ability to do canned emails. And so what you can simply do, and this is wonderful because when that email comes in saying, so how much does a website cost? Last time you wrote the email, you will have saved it as a canned response. And this time, you don't have to retype it. You simply go down here, click on your canned responses, select the one you need. Voila, it's auto-inserted into the email. You click send, and it's all done. Now, you can see the next step here is that click here. The next step is going to be in replying to this email is sending them to our project request form. This is the next piece of automation that we're going to have. To do this, we're going to simply use the Gravity Forms. I like to use Gravity Forms. It's going to have all the traditional fields. We're going to want to know their name, their email, their phone number, their website URL. But we're going to ask them some extra questions. How did you learn about us? How many times have you been on a sales call and you forget to ask that question? It's really good going into the call to know and who you might want to thank. Are you the key decision maker for this project? I've always been surprised, but people are completely honest when it comes to this one. It's important. Are you talking to the head of the business? Or are you talking to someone in the office who is sending out requests to every agency in town, gathering information? You need to know who you're going to be on the phone with, and you may very well state, I'm not going to be on that call unless the decision maker is on this call. How will this project impact your business? This is also key information to walk into that sales conversation with. I bet you that website has been on their to-do list for a while now, but something is going on in their business. Something is happening. It has become important. And as a person going into a sales conversation, this is powerful information, because when you know why now, what the pain is, what the need is, what the challenge is, you can enter that conversation really understanding deeply what they're looking for. You can speak to them in that language when you write your estimate, and you can even know exactly the solution they need, because we are in the business of solving client problems. And what we think they need, it's important to understand what they're needing out of it so we can come up with the right solution. The other field I absolutely love is asking them what their budget is. I've intentionally added to all of my inquiry forms budget ranges. And so there is the mini project, which is effectively, so I like to work with, for website builds, a specific range. And so that's kind of my sweet spot. And that is that middle piece, the build price. And so let's say I build, $3,000 to $5,000 sites, or $6,000 to $8,000 sites, or 8 to 10, whatever your sweet spot is. I set that in the form as the default budget, because from there, they have to potentially, as they're assessing, working with me, they need to move radio away from it. And the mini project allows me to say, you know what, we will go lower than the ideal sweet spot, but this is as low as we go. And likewise, we can put a really high budget. We can put something like, let's say, a $50,000 budget is a project you'd never want to deal with, or whatever is the other end. Likewise, someone coming to your site with $100,000 budget is going to look at it and go, you're not my provider. And what this does is you're pre-qualifying people you're getting on sales calls with. You don't get those tire kickers, because it's pretty darn clear you're not doing $1,000 websites anymore. You're also not going to get necessarily the $150K, but you didn't want that anyways. And you're already pre-setting the expectation of, a website through this agency costs about. And even if they step down to like maybe one step lower, they still in the back of their mind know, it's probably going to be a little bit more. And this is how you ensure, as business owners, you are having sales calls that ultimately are typically changing to leads. None of us have time to kill where we want to waste having conversations with people who aren't a good fit. And so let's start pre-qualifying before we even get there. Now, once the form is submitted as advertised in that email, we're going to take them to the scheduling page. For that, we're going to use an online scheduler. There's a lot of them out there, Acuity. I happen to use BookMe. I got that an amazing AppSumo deal. Again, this is automated because this syncs up with my Gmail, my Google Calendar. And so there's no back and forth. There's no finding a time to meet. It's very simple. These are the times that work for me. For the meeting time, I choose. And so I am running the show here. I'm calling the shots, and they've been able to go, if we kind of retrace this journey, they emailed me saying, how much does a website cost? I took one action. I replied with my canned email. They then independently, without any engagement from me, have filled out a form. It's come into my inbox so I can scan it. They've been redirected to this calendar. They're putting themselves on my calendar for something that works for them. And if for some reason, when it comes through my inbox, I see a red flag, I can reach out with another canned email that says, you know what, we're not the best fit. But either way, I have gone all the way from that input email of, so how much does a website cost, to entering that sales conversation with it on my calendar. The other great thing with these online schedulers is this one hooks in with Zoom, so it automatically creates a Zoom meeting. It automatically puts it on my calendar. It automatically puts it on their calendar. It automatically sends both of us reminders. All of these things are done, and I can focus on my current clients. So we're going to get on our sales call. We're going to write the proposal. Now what? Well, our next goal is going to be trying to sign the client and start the project. So how can we automate this? Well, we're going to try to go from that proposal to scheduling the kickoff call with minimal effort. And how that's going to look is we're going to send the proposal. That is where the process starts. I can't write the proposal for you. However, I do suggest using something like an online proposal. software. This is really great for a couple of reasons. One is you can set up templates so you're not constantly recreating wheels. The other thing is a lot of them allow you to spy on what the customer's up to, which is kind of cool because you can look at it and say, they didn't open the proposal. They probably haven't gotten it. I need to follow up with that type of an email, or they're hanging out on this page a lot, or they keep opening it. You get a pulse on what the lead's up to, which can allow you to, reply with those everly, perfectly timed emails because you've gotten a peek into what they're doing. The other great thing is you can automate things like collecting the deposit. So I use Better Proposals. And so as soon as the client signs, they have an opportunity to pay and the deposit is paid. They also then are entered into my email marketing system. And this can be, go back for a second, where you send the onboarding email. So what we want to do is after they sign up and they pay the deposit while they're all excited to work with us, this is a great time to say, we're so excited to work with you and let's go and schedule the kickoff call. And so we can even automate that. We can set up an email that as soon as they have signed the proposal, out goes the next email. Dear client, first thing we need you to do to begin working on your new website is to schedule the kickoff call. And I bet you know where that's going. More automation, back to my calendar they go. Now you can go ahead and manually just use this canned email if you see the money come in and paste it in. Or as I said, in some cases, like the proposal software I use where it's automatically hooked up, I have a little hook go over to ActiveCampaign. It basically has tagged them as having signed the proposal. This could be any time of day, any day of the week. They immediately get that email which says, welcome, we couldn't be more excited to be working with you. Now we get to add them to our systems. And this piece of automation is really this is what created this entire presentation. And before I jump into that, I just want to say the other beautiful thing about automation is that as we elevate our business, as we go from sort of being the freelancer who's just winging it and figuring it out, and we start to be mature and we start to have systems and processes, the more you can automate things, the more you can refine, you can hone, you can be consistent. It also reduces your stress because you don't have to remember, did I? It's done. It happened. It is magic. So now back to the magic that started this presentation. My goal, when my customers come into my company, I like to set them up in a bunch of systems. I use Slack for communication. I use time tracking. I use, to-do management software, all these different things. And I was finding myself going in and putting very similar information everywhere. It's like every system I had internally wanted the same thing. What's the name of the customer? What's the website address? What's their email address? And as I was documenting this to actually have a virtual assistant, a VA do, something lit up in my brain. And I went, wait a minute, there's a Zap for that. Enter Zapier. Enter the ultimate cloning. This is the most beautiful thing. This is the most complex thing of everything I'm sharing with you today, but I want to plant a seed for what's possible. You can have one form, in this case, a gravity form on my website. You can have one piece of software, in this case, Zapier. And whenever I submit that form, it goes running off to my internal communication tool, AKA Slack, and creates a Slack channel. It runs over to Dropbox and it makes a folder. Even better, it creates a consistent folder style every single time. Active clients / client name / project name. And if a client has more than one project, it's client name / project 1, client name / project 2. I have never been so organized in my life. And when I'm wondering where is the file, it's in the folder exactly where I'd expect it. No longer are things all over the place. Time tracking. It automatically sets up the profile in my time tracking software, invoicing software, to-do tracking software. All of this, one action, I submit a form. Software magic, and boom, I'm cloned. So as I was saying, in my case, I use Gravity Forms, and this is what I use. It's a very simple form. We're taking basic information. What's the name? What's the email? And then I'm connecting it through Zapier to put them in Harvest, which is what I happen to use for invoicing and time tracking. I create a Dropbox folder. I create a Slack channel. Now, how do you do this? The way Zapier works is essentially is sort of this connector hub. And so what you start with is you are connecting the form from your website to Zapier. Then you're connecting the other side of the conversation, which is Dropbox to Zapier. And then you tell the two to connect. When there is an action, a form is submitted. It automatically creates, the reaction happens. In this case, a folder is created. Voila, done. And when you think about it, I mean, the possibilities are endless. And this is one of the reasons I absolutely love Zapier. It integrates with just about everything. So think about it in your business. What is the repetitive task? What is the things that you're doing each and every time that, frankly, you could automate? And think about the quality increase. Think about the stress reduction. Think about what that could mean for your business. Ultimate cloning. So let's continue on our journey with our client. We're going to do the work. We're going to wow the client. The project is launched. We're all excited. Whew, done. How many of us at that point are just like throwing a party and we're like, okay, I don't want to even think about this client anymore? But what we often forget is in that moment when we are done, they are just getting started. We have created and delivered the thing they have been waiting for. They are all excited. They love us. So let's use this to get some more business. How can we automate this? Well, post-launch, we can leverage basically an email drip sequence. So what I love to do is whenever a client launches, I simply go into Active Campaign and I add a little tag, which basically says project launched. And about a month later, out goes the first email. I'd be ever so grateful if you could take a moment to write a review with your experiences with us. And here's a link. Make it super easy for them. Next month, this is one of my favorites. This is the Keeping It Humming email. Now, to anyone who, one of the things I do in almost all my clients now, especially once you get up to a certain budget, I find it's much easier to sell website care and maintenance plans. So I have much fewer people who are even considering doing it themselves. But to any person who has considered doing it themselves, this is a great way to potentially sell a client who says, no, I can do it, not a problem. Month 2 is a great time to be like, so I'm sure you've logged into your site, right? I'm sure you've kept things up to date, right? And they might log in and they see like 20 updates and they're like, oh, good God. And this is where you can add in your email, you know what? Make sure you're doing a this and a this and a this and a this, but we'd be happy to do it for you. Great opportunity to pick up any care clients along the way who, again, have decided they're going to do it themselves and start to see the light when they really figure out what's involved. About 3 months in, great time to ask for referrals, right? You have given great service. They love you. This is a great time to ask, do you know anyone else who would benefit from my services? I would love to be able to support them. Send them my way. About 6 months out, you can send another touch point. Can you believe it's been 6 months? And at a year, happy birthday. And usually I like to do one around 9 months because what my goal in all of this is through this span of all of 6 emails, what I've done is I dipped in and out of their life. So it's more frequent at the beginning, right? Initially, everything's hot. So first month, asking for the testimonial, then checking up on the maintenance. And then over time, we can start to spread it out. But the important thing is that I am staying in their lives as their provider and as someone who is top of mind for them. Not sure why my clicker is being annoying today. There we go. And so as to how I set this up, I happen to use ActiveCampaign. And so all I do is when there's a tag of the website being launched, we delay about a month and then send our first email of the testimonial request. Then we wait another month. And now if this is where you do need to get clever, if they're already a care client, not the right time to be selling them on care plans. So you got to watch that. But this is the great, you can go ahead and say the keeping it humming email. About a month after that, referral request time. Wait another 3 months. Can you believe it's been 6 months? Another 3 months, something of value. Then I hear again that happy birthday. All right, a lot of stuff going fast here, but more pro efficiency tips. Other ways to use automation and the automation mindset will tell you filters are your very best friend. I love setting up Gmail filters, and I actually try to get inbox proper to effectively 0. It allows me to go and scan the side, and if suddenly there's like 10 emails in one client, I know there's a fire over there. But it lets me be able to be in control of my inbox and quickly assess where things are at and look at things in batches and in very controlled, as opposed to being reactive and just going through a mess of just stuff. Another great thing you can do is use a ticket request form. So getting your clients out of your inbox. Now, you can use ticketing systems which work great. You can also just make a really simple Gravity form on your site and create your own ticketing system. And the great thing about that is sometimes I've used things like Teamwork has its own ticketing system, and sometimes I pay for that higher level service, and sometimes I don't bother. The great thing about using my own solution, using a Gravity form, is independent of whatever is going on, I can filter it to what my current solution is, and the experience doesn't change for my client. The other great thing is I get to be clever with my form. I ask all the normal stuff like name, email, URL, but then there's this question I love to ask: task urgency. So general, expectations in my agency is that they can expect a standard task to turn around in about, a 3 to 5 day window. But every once in a while, the sky is falling and we do need something more urgent. Here's what I love to do though, is give them the option of whether they select, is this a standard issue? Like get to it in the normal time frame. Is this like pressing, like this kind of needs to be done? Or is this like urgent? The reason I do this, and if you notice, each of these are incurring a potential penalty, so to speak, or a cost of higher level service. Standard tickets, not a problem. This is included. And usually we shoot to wow the client. It may not be 3 to 5 days. But this is basically the balance of me calling the shots on when the work will be done versus the client. How many times have you gotten the this needs to happen immediately, drop everything and pay attention to me, I'm your only client, right? I have found since mentioning that there will be a fee for this being urgent and a rush job, suddenly the sky isn't falling nearly as much. This is kind of a great way to very clearly train your clients and just remind your clients that, you're going to get to it and you are going to show up and serve. But if they really do want you to drop everything, because let's think about this. We all have work. We all have schedules. We all have commitments. If we're going to drop everything to work on them, that probably means something we're currently working on is going to get delayed, or we're going to need to work a weekend, or we're going to need to work at night. There does need to be compensation for that, and that is their choice. Occasionally, clients are like, this important. It's on me that I got it to you that late, but I do need this done. And so we do it. But there's an understanding of how things work. And the client doesn't get to decide if they're your top priority. Another way you can increase efficiency is to always use your same suite of themes and plugins. We tend to be exploring, we're on theme forest, we're trying this one, we're trying that one. But as we mature, I would highly encourage you to come up with 1 or 2 themes that you love, a builder you love, a suite of plugins that you love and you know inside and out. This will streamline your process. You'll get things done faster. And it also, again, as we think about controlling the quality of what we're creating in our business, the more consistent you are, the more consistent you are in what you're using, the more consistent you are in what you're producing. I personally like to have a seed site ready. So what I do is I have 1 or 2 installations in my hosting, which are always kept up to date. And they use basically my plugin suite, my builder of choice, my theme of choice. And so whenever we get a new client, we install that and turn things on as needed. At launch, any plugins that aren't activated, aren't needed for this project, they're deleted and done. How many times have you found yourself sitting there every time there's a new client, installing WordPress, searching for plugin 1, searching for plugin 2, searching for plugin 3? I highly encourage you to one of these days put a stake in the ground and say, this is the last time. I'm going to set this up. So the next time you have a client, set it up. Before you start customizing anything, make a copy, put it aside. You now have your seed site. You now have one more piece of automation in your business. Same goes with hosts. How many times have you logged into a client's host and you're like, where the heck? When we create our estimates, we're estimating our time and how long we think a project's going to take. I only have certain hosts I will work with. And then for others, if it's not going to be in that suite of hosts, kind of have some choices. There's either a pain and suffering fee, or there's frankly the I'm not suffering fee. There's no amount of money that will make me suffer fee that you need to change host or this just isn't going to work. Because again, we need to realize that our ability to deliver the product we promised requires us to be able to use the tools that we know deliver that product. And that probably means hosts that we feel are going to be keeping up on PHP, they're going to be keeping up on security, that are going to be set up to position our clients for success. So ultimately, the product we're giving them is the product we promised. We can't be handicapped because they're holding us back, putting us on a host that frankly isn't a good solution for them. And we care about our clients enough and we stand behind our product enough to say, this will have to change. And the other way is to just, as we speak through all these different ways, is just to always have the mindset of automation where whenever you do things in your business, my general rule of thumb is if I do it once, fine. If I do it twice, I'm thinking. If I'm going to do the same darn thing a third time, there is another way. And I can start to document this, and either a tool or someone else can be doing it for me. Because as the business owners over time, our time is, I don't want to say more valuable, but there are things that are uniquely that we can do. And if something is that repeatable, there is another way, and we shouldn't be the ones doing them. So you might be saying to yourself, this is great, but good Lord, you've just given me 101 things to do. Where the heck do I begin? One step at a time is where you begin. I would say ask yourself, what are the tasks that you're doing over and over again for each new project? And next time you do the task, it's really simple. I am someone who loves to do video. And so what I do is when I have a repetitive task, the next time I do it, I simply turn on Loom. So loom.com is a great screen record program. And I record myself doing it. In fact, one of my first systems and processes in my business was setting up that staging, that seed area. And so what I did was one of the times that I did it, I recorded it. And then I gave it to my front-end developer. And I had him do 2 things. 1, watch the video and see this is how it's done at my company. And 2, turn it into a document. Let him go through and make screenshots and all of that good stuff. Again, your time as the business owner is pretty precious, and we can get slowed down or feel resistant to doing this stuff because it can feel tedious if you don't find this stuff exciting. So find the path that makes it easy for you to start setting up these tools and these systems and processes in your business, and leverage your team to train and document all in one fell swoop. And this way, as more front-end developers and other people, maybe the person you have right now who knows the way things work around here leaves. When that person leaves and someone else comes in, you go, here, this is how we do things around here. And you already have it documented. Automation and all of these things are a bit like teaching your kid to tie their own shoes, right? I mean, it does take additional time when you're getting started. But here's the question. Are you planning to go to college with your child so you can continue to tie their shoes? At one point, you need to bite the bullet. And I promise you, after you do, you will love yourself each and every time the automation runs. The other thing I'd share is that I would say of the 3 things I've shared with you today, I kind of gave you 3 different tiers of automation. We started off with the emails, which was a canned response in Google. That's really, really easy to implement. All you need to do is write that email you are going to write anyways. And this time, the one step you're doing different is you're saving it. That is an easy, actionable step you can take. The next thing I would say in order of all of these different things from an easy to a complicated perspective is the back end. Once you launch a client site, many of us have set up email campaigns for clients. It's just creating an email campaign for yourself. And how I did that for myself was a similar stake in the ground. When I finally launched a project, I said, this time, when it comes to those landmarks, I'm going to write those emails, but I'm going to take it one step further. I'm going to copy them and paste them into my automation. So I literally built out that first year. In the first year, I didn't create extra work for myself. I literally, as I sent the email, I saved the email. The other beautiful thing about it is when you're doing it that way, when you're writing that email, you are literally writing that email to another person. You are writing that email to the person whose project you just launched. And that's actually what you want. Even though it's quote automation, it is a one-to-one correspondence. And so your energy and the authenticity of a true email comes through. Even though it's automated, eventually it is still you speaking to your client. So I'm going to share with you as promised some of the tools of the trade, because this is something I get asked a lot. I already mentioned as far as the sort of automation component, Zapier, not sure the correct way to pronounce it, is similar to the if this, then that. Either one, I call these magical online connectors. They just, magic happens in the middle. That is a fabulous tool that I love using in my business, as you can tell. For online scheduling, BookMe is a great one. I got that, as I said, from an AppSumo deal. Acuity is also another wonderful one. When it comes to proposals, I use Better Proposal. Yet again, AppSumo. Proposify is a good one as well. For email automation, I'm currently using ActiveCampaign. I probably, if I were to pick right now, would pick Drip or MailChimp. Probably MailChimp because I think they're the cheapest to start with. When I moved over to ActiveCampaign, MailChimp didn't have the level of tagging it does now. And that really is key to me. I actually use tagging even more in my business than I showed here. I dig even deeper that as emails come in, I basically sort of say, discovery call scheduled, intake form submitted. I have additional tags that I use in ActiveCampaign. So I literally have a pulse on where the client is in the process. For example, when I send out the proposal, I tag that the proposal has been sent. And then when they sign it, it's tagged as signed, which allows me to automate either the follow-up of, our calendar's kind of filling up. So if you want to work with us, you might want to sign the darn proposal. And likewise, if proposal signed is activated, that email doesn't go out. So there is like levels and levels and levels of potential automation. For invoicing, I too, like Corey, use Harvest. That has worked really well for me. Dipsado is one that I've heard great things about. Harvest works well for me because it integrates so well with everything else that I'm using. It allows me to have all of my team track their time. I can easily pull reports on how much basically man hours went into a project. I can easily send out invoices, all the things. And that connects with my to-do management system, which is Teamwork PM. Some people use Trello boards. Teamwork, again, is one that has worked well for me. I'll tell you in all of this, the tool is not the solution. Well, the tool is not what's important here. It can get easy to jump from shiny tool to shiny tool, looking for the tool that solves your problem. What is really more important is to take a step back and say, what is my system and process? What does it look like in my business? And then lean into the tool. Every tool is going to have a strength. Every tool is going to have a problem. Usually I would say use what's working for you until you find a reason to switch, because there is a huge pain, obviously, in switching. Slack is great for conversation. We used to chat on Skype, and it ended up being this jumble of which project are we talking about. And so by setting up a Slack channel for every single project, we get immediate context. So it's really simple to know in Slack when someone's asking a question in a certain channel, I know exactly what project we're talking about, and we have all the communication there, as opposed to a more jumbled, kind of a jumbled space. I do also try to keep task-specific communication within Teamwork, but if it's more chatter or something that doesn't need to be as much documented, Slack is perfectly fine. Dropbox, as I said, is what I use for file management. Google Drive would work as well. Why Dropbox? It's where I started. Managed WP. This, I believe, may be called GoDaddy Pro now, is a game changer if you're going to do care plans. This is essentially a plugin that you're able to install on all sites you manage, and you go into this hub and you're able to effectively do bulk updates of WordPress, of themes, of plugins. You can keep an eye on uptime, you can add SEO, and probably the most important piece is they allow you to send reports. Now, these reports basically say, these plugins were updated and this many backups are in place, and you can automate them to send out to your clients every single month. Now, your client's going to get this report and be like, I don't know what any of this means. But what they do know is, wow, she's evidently doing something for my $100. I should probably keep paying her $100. And so I find that to be a really powerful retention piece. And so for me, that is probably one of the most important parts of the managed WP solution. WP Engine right now is my host of choice, working with WordPress on WordPress sites. Between the performance, between the extra mile they go when I need it, WP Engine is my go-to right now and has been for many years. It took me a long time to find a host I loved, and that is my host of choice. And that's similar to what I tell you guys. When you find a solution you love and you know inside and out, this is how you keep having the quality and the consistency in your business, and it allows you to scale. Gravity Forms, I've had them for years. I love those guys. They go the extra mile, worth every single penny. Google Calendar, Gmail, those are your standards. And then I just want to shout out to two different people or two different programs that have just, I don't want to say been pivotal, but have definitely impressed upon me things that I've built into my business over the years. This is the beautiful thing about WordPress. We are all learning from each other. Profitable Project Plan by Jennifer Bourne is a great one when it comes to learning how to take a client through a design project and have great communication and a lot of automated great communication. And WP Elevation by Troy Dean is an amazing program. They have over, I think, probably 700-800 WordPress professionals and agency owners all together in a Facebook group. It's a place where you could authentically show up some days and say, I just scored the biggest client ever. And likewise, I am hiding under my desk, and everything in between. He also does a lot to really help you shift your mindset from kind of the I'm winging it to the no, I'm actually like a professional and I need to be paid and I can show up accordingly. So those two programs are both ones that I have gleaned a lot of wisdom from. And even some of what I shared today are, as Troy would say, take it and make it, season it to taste and make it your own. What you've seen from me today is a lot of my learnings coming to WordCamps, being in programs like this, and basically learning from others and making it my own. The last thing I'll leave you with is a systems mindset slide. And the reason I added it is because it kind of pulls very well off what Corey was talking about. One of the most pivotal books for me relative to really getting in this mindset was Built to Sell. She talked about the exit plan, and Built to Sell just really was a book. It's an easy read. I actually did it as an Audible, really got me thinking about how unless we have systems and processes, really all we have is a job. And we're not going to be able to sell it because some days we don't know we want it, right? And so how can you start to really step into this place where for yourself and even for your customer, you have a consistent, quality, dependable product? Work the System is also a great book, and Traction, a lot of people love this. I've personally not read it. I kind of got to burnout by the time I got to that book. There's only so much, self-development you can do, but that's another good one. And so with that, I'm Jocelyn Mozak. As I said, I am the owner and founder of Mozak Design. I am also a business coach and mentor to other creative professionals and agents and freelancers coming up through the ranks. You can get a copy of these slides at jocelynmozak.com. And I hope you have, found this helpful, given you some perspective and some ideas, and, look forward to seeing if there's any questions any of you may have.
Oh, thank you, Jocelyn. That was really good. I've taken a lot of notes. We do have a question from Ralph Linder. He was asking, do you use WP-CLI for seeding those sites?
So I've actually not done that. This probably is like an indication of, when you end up with systems that just work. I think when I started setting this up, I either didn't know about it or didn't have it. So no, I don't. There are probably tighter and more effective ways to do it. Sometimes in business, we come up with our systems that work for us, and that's pretty much what we use. I think, isn't that essentially a command line way of setting up installs? I'm thinking it probably is. And that certainly could be a lot better. The method I had at the time was effectively utilizing WP Engine has the ability to replicate. And so I would essentially go in there and create the new transitional site and say, seed it off of this one. Command line is definitely a great way to go. I mean, the main thing here is if you're catching yourself doing the reinventing the wheel every single time, that's what we need to stop. And then yes, tightening it up with something like that is a perfect solution.
Right. Your tip on, hey, first time is, okay, nice. Second time, you start to kind of get that inkling that's like, I might be doing this again. Third time, okay, I got to automate this one. So that's what usually catches me on WPLI.
Although I will tell you guys, if you do proceed to do it a third time, fourth time, and fifth time, kicking yourself, just know you're normal.
I was wondering, when you get to that point and you're using Zapier, how long does it take you to set up your whole Zapier workflow?
I mean, you're talking to someone who's an electrical engineer by trade. So this is just how my brain works. Really, it doesn't take that long. I mean, I would say these things don't just magically happen. I would say do them as they make sense. Start with the low-hanging fruit and just build on it. And so it actually really doesn't take you that long. It's more saying like, okay, what is the repetitive step? What goes into those steps? And then how can I come up with a solution for it and just systematically, install it and get that piece done. I'm all about not creating extra work, but instead saying, okay, when I'm going to do this, for the 30th time, I'm going to take the one next step to not do the 31st. What does that need to be? That might be Zapier. It may be simply, doing a screen record and having someone else documenting it. It may be something as simple as teaching your kid to tie their own shoes, meaning here's a Loom video. Here's how it's done. It's not rocket science, but now your team member can just watch the video and do it. It doesn't need to necessarily dance. Dancing is cool. I mean, that form is something that as a geek, I light up literally to this day, 2 years later, every single time I run that form, because I see how brilliant it is, but it doesn't even need to be that brilliant to move your business forward.
All right, thank you. We do have one more question from Jason's asking, do you automate your customer status updates during that development process?
So at this point, I don't. This is so I will mention profitable project plan. So this is where Jennifer Bourne actually has an incredible system of doing that. I still think in some ways, I don't want to say I wing it too much, but I kind of wing it in the middle where I don't have that as regimented. So that isn't a piece that I have built into my business because I either haven't felt the pain yet or I haven't found that. I mean, we all strike the balance, right, of working in our business and on our business. And we kind of, there's times where we work a lot on it. And actually, I think this talk hopefully is very timely to anyone who's feeling the extra time to go get some of this, groundwork done. But yeah, that would be my answer. So no, I haven't. Yes, I did just recommend someone who does. Ultimately, it's finding what works for you.
I get the feeling that at some points of the process that you don't really want to automate it because you still want to have that human touch to it, that organic communication with your customers.
I think I would actually counter that and say it's a balance, but it also has to do, when I write these emails, as I said, the way I do my process isn't to just sit down and do a contrived email. It's literally, the biggest way to automate something is when you keep writing the same email. So maybe I would take a complete step back and say, let that be your cue. If there are things as you reflect throughout even your development process, I think that's actually where Jennifer started in creating even her system. She was finding herself always having to either answer the same question, make the same explanation. And you could start it. I will say I do have canned emails inside my development process. I don't automate with them when they go out, but I have canned emails that basically are like, here's scheduling the kickoff call. It was a great kickoff call, and here's the next step. Here's the design kickoff call. Here's the development. I'm at the point where I'm still utilizing canned, but the beauty in that is think about the quality of what you write the first time. Think about the quality after you've used it 3 times and keep tweaking the content. The quality of your work keeps going up. And so that is probably one of the easiest ways to start.
Awesome. Thank you. That wraps up our time with this one. If you do want to catch up with Jocelyn, you can catch her in the winner's circle later on. I believe there's a link for that somewhere on the site. But again, thank you so much, Jocelyn, for sharing that with us. I'm really a big fan of automation and making life much easier. Thank you so much.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me.